Y'all. Hey, so I wanted to come and talk about a couple of things. Let me have my keys. I don't know where I'm at. Who am I from? I am chilling outside right now, waiting for my clothes to dry in the dryer. And I wanted to come and talk about the mindset that you should have. Hey, Round and Brown, what's up? I wanted to come and talk about the mindset that you should have for a home birth, because I feel like, right now, especially with the pandemic, a lot of things change. It became like this trendy thing to do, but a lot of us are not realizing that some of us might not be ready for a home birth. Even though I want to put a disclaimer again, like I did yesterday. Hey, thanks for joining, Erin Stewart. Hey, girl. I want to put a disclaimer because I'm 100% for home births. Hey, I'm glad you're here. Nice to meet you. Hopefully this page brings some value to your life then. That's my goal in life. So, I guess then I should introduce myself. So my name is Taylor. I am a doula in Chicago, in the Chicago area, suburbs, all of that good stuff. And I'm also in school right now to be a midwife. So I'm learning and I am growing. And that's my life. I'm a mom of 2 beautiful babies. I always mention that because I had some crazy birth experiences that really changed my life and actually led me to becoming a doula. So here I am. And what was I going to put in the chat for the disclaimer? Oh, I'm 100% for home births, but that's what I'm going to put. I did a live recently about how the home birth skyrocketed during the pandemic, because a lot of us were like, we ain't going into the hospital. COVID was crazy, right? So we wasn't trying to go in the hospital. Luckily, I didn't get pregnant during the pandemic, but a lot of people were seeking out home birth midwives during the pandemic. So I'm like, okay, cool. We're kind of going back to where we started. And if you're new to this live, right, I always have notes for my lives. So just to keep me on track, because this is stuff that I can literally rant about all day, every day, and I don't want to keep you out here for long. So I want to start by talking about home births being trendy and kind of like the history of home births. So at one point in time, especially if you're an American descendant of slaves, at one point in time, we were not allowed to give birth in hospitals. Like, that was just the reality of things. Like, we had to have a midwife. We had to give birth at home. We had to give birth outside of the hospital setting because white doctors would not take care of us. So going back to slavery time and up until now. So we went from being their midwives, actually. We were their midwives and what they call wet nurses, which is basically like taking care of their babies afterwards, basically like a doula, but they would also have us breastfeeding their babies. Like, I don't know if it was that they couldn't produce like we could, or they just didn't want to. I'm not really sure, but they had us breastfeeding their babies. They had us birthing their babies, and they were completely fine with it and okay. But just look at America, because history always repeats itself, right? So America is really big, especially right now, on your certificates, right? And we see all of that kind of declining and going down a drain, because you can have a damn doctor's degree. And like one of the midwives that I follow, her name on Instagram is Dr. Midwife. She has a doctor's degree. She was a nurse, then a certified nurse midwife. And then she moved to Alabama and still had to re-register herself as a certified professional midwife, which is basically what I'm in school to do right now. So they made it seem like back in the day that these certificates were end all, do all. You had to have a degree. You had to have a nursing degree. And even right now, it's still kind of hard to become a certified nurse midwife versus a professional midwife, because they want you to have a bachelor's degree, and I think some states it's a master's degree. So we make it seem like the certificates are everything. But history tells us that the certificates were just a way of y'all controlling the narrative. It was just a way of the health department controlling what was going on. So if you look into anything about granny midwives, they were taking care of people before we were allowed to even give birth in a hospital. We were allowed to give birth in hospitals in about 1950s, I believe that's the year. So my parents were born in 1965. They were definitely born in the hospital. But their mom was not able, she was not able to be born in a hospital. Her mom had to give birth at home with her sisters surrounding her and that type of environment. So I love to see that we're actually going back to what we found as safe and normal. Now, also to talk about the history of, home births and midwives. Hey, Destiny Mommy. Hey, Muslim Mommy. Also to go back to the history of this, right? So these women were taking care of white people with no problem. We were their nurses, we were their midwives, we were their wet nurses, right? But then once we built these institutions like the schools that we weren't allowed to be in, if you read the Rosa Parks story, weren't allowed to be in their schools, right? Weren't allowed to drink at the same water fountain, weren't allowed to walk into the same entrance as them. So once they let us be free as far as being slavery goes, they still wanted things to be separate. So no, we're not about to take care of you in our hospitals. But a lot of white women were actually still seeing granny midwives. They were like, well, my mom saw you when she was pregnant. I want to see you too while I'm pregnant. So there's this midwife, Gladys. I can't remember her name now, but she's based out of Florida, and they actually took her to court because they were trying to take away her certification, which technically there was no certification at this time for midwives. They put these pieces of paper on us to control us. So they were trying to take away her rights to actually be a midwife, and all of these people were protesting. And in the old pictures, you'll see a lot of white people with picket signs like, we love our midwife. What are y'all doing? So we now understand that was more so of a control mechanism for them to put those degrees out there. Now you need to be certified and all of these things. Now, I will say that we were losing some people along the way because of unsanitary things. Now, this is outside of the hospital and inside of the hospital. Because if we start talking about the history of OBGYNs, those folks just didn't want to wash their hands. It was literally as simple as that. People were dying from viruses during their postpartum just because the doctors thought they were too superior, that their knowledge was way too superior to just wash your hands. And that's not what the midwives dealt with. Like, I don't think that was their issue. I think we more so dealt with mostly poor people who weren't able to give birth in hospitals. So what does that mean? Your eating habits probably not up to par, as they would say, and you're not healthy enough for a home birth. So for this live, I really just wanted to go into the mindset of home birthing, because I also talk a lot about nutrition, and that's like a whole nother topic for a whole nother day. So let's just talk about the mindset. So that's a little bit of the history, right? So the other thing that I always tell people is that knowledge will literally make or break your decisions that you make in life with any and everything. Like the way I was able to stop eating meat, like, bro, how old is my son? He about to be 9. So it's been about almost 7 years, like going on 7 years, because I stopped when he was 2 and he's about to be 9 soon. So the way that I was able to stop, though, because I've been eating my whole life, okay? My whole life. This is where I grew up on fried chicken. Like, come on now. Like, a lot of people, that's the hardest thing for them to give up. But for me, I'm like, I'm about to learn as much as possible about it. And then that helps me make decisions. Because also the type of person I am, I'm like an all or nothing type of person. I feel like it's like a Scorpio thing, or maybe a water sign thing. I don't know. I'm not that into horoscopes, but I've always been an all or nothing type of person. So if I'm going to do it, I'm all in. I hope the background's not too loud. But with anything I needed to do, learn as much about it as possible. So if you're pregnant and you're thinking about a home birth, that's beautiful. Like, that's amazing. Your first step is to learn as much as possible about it. You want to start searching, what are home births? What does it look like? Look at some YouTube videos of other people doing their home births. Not all of them are always so pretty. So you want to follow people that are realistic. Like, that's one of the things I like to see, things that are realistic. It don't always go as planned. Sometimes moms, especially first-time moms, they don't want to stick around. Like, obviously, I would advise you to get a doula, because that's going to be your advocate and be like, no, like, they're going to be your support person in your ear. Like, no, you can do it. Like, you don't have to go to the hospital. A lot of times we dip off and go to the hospital because we didn't have that person there that was literally telling you, you can do it. Like, I've been to some home births. Assalamu alaikum, Sister Victoria. Oh, I love my home birth. Black Muslim mommy, when are you gonna DM me? Because I want to start sharing some positive home birth stories on my podcast. So I'm gonna probably DM you after this. Okay, just be looking out. But yeah. So sometimes I've been to home births where they're literally in the midst of contractions, but then there's somebody there, a family member, a loved one. Okay, they love you, but they just don't know better. And they'll be like, are you sure you can do this? Are you sure you want to do this? So they're feeding you doubts during a time where you need to be fed security. That's during a time where you need to be fed security. You got this. You know how to do this. Your body knows what it's doing. And that's the other thing that you want to dive into is on your learning journey. So how does the uterus work? What does my uterus look like? During my birthing class, I literally showed them a picture of the uterus and the muscles on the uterus. I wish I had that same picture on my phone. I would show you right now. But I literally showed them, this is your uterus. This is where the muscles are. This is how you contract. So they can literally visualize when you feel something at the top of your stomach, that's this muscle that's contracting. This is exactly what's happening in your body. And that information helps you. Because you don't just feel like, oh my God, I'm dying, I'm in pain. You feel like, wow, my baby's moving closer and closer to where he's supposed to be or she's supposed to be. So I feel like knowledge is going to set you free, literally. It's going to set you free. It's going to make you feel so much more comfortable. That's for home birthing, for how your body works, your menstrual cycle, breastfeeding, postpartum, all of those things. You want to learn as much as possible about it. Aw, I'm so happy you brought you here too. Praise be to Allah. I'm trying to start going live every day, y'all. So actually, I'm not trying. I'm actually doing it. So I'm here. This is my third day in a row. And I got a lot of information that is just like sitting here that I'm about to start sharing. So yeah, that goes for everything. I always recommend that moms take a breastfeeding class. If you want to breastfeed, take a class with your partner before you even have your baby. Take a class on natural childbirth before you even have your baby. But you also want to vet the class that you take, because I took a class that was actually at a hospital and it was supposed to be a childbirthing class, but the very first lesson was on epidurals. Like, what? I was so annoyed. If y'all would have seen me in the chat at that class, I literally asked them and I unmuted myself because they let you like raise your hand and talk. And I said, I thought this was going to be learning about how to give birth to a baby, not how to get drugs into my system. Like, starting off a class with facts about epidurals, bruh. Oh, you do? Okay, cool. I was just telling Black Muslim mommy that I'm looking for some positive home birthing stories. If you want to share on the podcast, feel free to DM me. I would love to have you on there. But yeah, why would you start off telling me about epidurals? And basically, when you go to childbirth classes at hospitals, they're basically set up to tell you what will allow you to do. They were like, their reason, Sister Victoria, was that the what is he called? The anesthesiologist? Is that what the people called that give out the epidurals? His reason was basically that he couldn't stay to the end of the class. He had something else to do. So they had to get his part out the way first. I'm like, oh my God. Think about the psychology of what y'all giving to the moms, though. Like, we understand it conflicts with your schedule, sir, that you couldn't wait to the end of the class to talk to us about that. Okay, thanks. But anyway, yeah, basically the hospital classes, they're just telling you what will allow you to do, because this is why I'm 100% for home births. Home births, okay, it's your home. What will you allow to happen in your home? Hospital births is at a hospital. What will they allow to happen at a hospital? Exactly. Oh my God, I hate that, Sis V. It's true for C-sections and just inducing moms, period. They be wanting to make sure they can make it for their Thanksgiving dinner. So why don't we just induce you before that? Like, what? And then they try to make it sound cute for you too. So, but it's a mess. Vetting the classes, the midwife, the doulas that you choose, all of that is so important, because they need to be in line with what you want. But then that also comes back to knowing what you want, back to the knowledge. You have to actually learn about these things before you choose someone to teach you. I would say do your own research before you choose someone to teach you. Because then if it's not in line with what you were looking at, then you can ask, you know what questions to ask. Like, well, I saw this, so what do you think about that? Then you can kind of cross-reference this information out here. I'm so happy my doctor was against C-sections. Me too. Home birth is so free. Okay, yeah, that's what I was saying. Home birth, it's your house. Do you want to eat something? Do you want fruit? Do you want something to drink? Do you want someone to make you tea, a smoothie? It's your house. Versus the hospital, you ask them for some, oh, we ain't got that. Cafeteria's closed. The nurse don't feel like going downstairs for that. Nah, we need you to stay on these monitors because we got other patients. Literally, it's dry, like, bruh. I said on my interview with Dr. Akili, my first 2 births, the first one was a home birth. The second one was a hospital birth. And both of those births told me that I was in exact alignment with what God wanted me to do. That hospital birth had me stressed out, bro, for like weeks. I was like, oh my God. I was literally thinking in my head, how can I avoid them forever? But then I'm like, why would you avoid them? You're needed there damn near more than you are at home. You're needed there more than you are at home almost. You don't lose all your energy when you're doing a home birth. Oh my God. Okay, yes. That brings me back to being in your own bed. You can be in your own bed. You can watch TV. You can move from your bed to the couch, to the shower, to the toilet, to the living room floor if you choose to. Yeah, it's hard to lose energy at home because people are always trying to feed you and make sure you okay. That's the other difference that I noticed. And one thing I noticed as well with dads, how they respond in home birth settings versus hospital settings. So in hospital settings, there's always nurses coming in and out. So what it looks like to the dad, it looks like you're being cared for by all these different nurses, all these different staff members. You're being cared for. So they chilling, they sitting down on their phone. But in reality, you're being bothered by all these different people and all these different staff members because they in there just to adjust the belt on your belly, check your blood pressure, draw some blood, all these things that are just annoying while I'm contracting, bruh. I'm contracting. But versus being at home, where it's you and family and loved ones, that husband feels more of a duty to be like, let me get you something to drink. Let me fan you. Let me make sure you're cooled off. My God, I've never seen dads so active than how I have at home births versus hospitals. I was in a hallway when I gave birth on a big pillow. Oh, and that goes back to what she said, it's so free. It doesn't have to always be in the water. It doesn't have to always be in a bed. It doesn't have to always be in a shower or your bathtub. It's wherever the mom feels comfortable in that moment. In that moment. Some cons about my birth was that I got an epidural and I couldn't eat. I was so stressed. You want to know why you couldn't eat? I'm going to just say it. You want to know why you couldn't eat? Because you were already on an epidural, right? So they already knowing that you are not in control of your contractions, your pushing or anything, that they have to heavily monitor you now, which means they also have to be prepared if they have to just cut you open because you're not able to feel when it's time to push. So if your baby goes into distress while it's right there in the canal, then, well, we got to cut you open. So no, we can't give you food because I don't know how that intervenes with surgery, but it always leads back to when they say you can't eat, they're preparing you for a cesarean. Yep, that's it. That's it. And I just hate that because there's no reason why moms should be hungry in labor. That's when you need the most energy. And that's why I always recommend fruit or smoothies because you're going to get the hydrogen. You're going to get hydrated from the water that's in fruit. And you're also going to get energized from the sugar that's in fruit. So that's like perfect fruit, perfect snack for labor. Because you also don't be in the mood for like real heavy meals. Sister Victoria. Yeah, you also don't be in the mood for like real heavy meals. So fruit is like the perfect snack. If you want a smoothie with some dates, some milk, some berries, it's perfect. Did I miss anything? My midwife allowed me to do what I wanted. She worked with what I say and what I wanted. Yes. That's the other difference between home births because guess what? They're in your domain. They have to follow what you say. If I say don't sit on that couch, you're not going to sit on that couch. Just like at the hospital, that's their hospital. If they say no, you can't get on the birthing ball, you can't get on the birthing ball. So yeah, that's basically it for that point. See what I told y'all in the beginning, that I can literally start ranting about this stuff like it's nothing. Oh, okay, good. I hope I know you came in a little bit late, but I hope you go back and watch the replay, because I'm gonna save it on my page. This is like about the mindset that you need to have a home birth. But also later this week, I'm gonna go into like some nutritional things that you want to keep in mind, because we also need to be strong enough to have home births as well, physically and mentally. So we're going over mentally first, we're gonna go over the physically later. Yes, you do, Sister Victoria. Wa alaikum salam. Thank you for joining, sis. Okay, so the other thing that I wanted to talk about, which is probably going to be another little rant. There's a difference between babies birthed and babies delivered. So you heard me talk about the history of home births and versus hospital births in the beginning, right? Once we got into the hospital births, oh my goodness, y'all. Literally, there's stories of women just being strapped to a table. Your arms are strapped down, your legs are strapped down and open. And they give you drugs to basically put you to sleep, and your baby is delivered. You wake up to a baby. Versus being in control of your birth, your baby is birthed. There's a big difference between babies birthed and babies delivered. Your baby is not somebody that needs to be delivered. God gave you a baby, and he gave you the means to basically, I don't even want to say push out the baby, because your body literally does it for you. Your body does it for you. I know. Doesn't that sound crazy? Doesn't that sound crazy? Okay, I'm missing comments. Hold on, y'all. Your food can go into the lungs. That's why they say they don't want you to eat. You mean like as far as preparing you for surgery, or just because I've heard that moms could choke. Like, yeah, I guess if you're eating laying on your back, but yeah, I've never seen anybody choke while eating just because they're contracting. So do you mean like as far as while they're in the operation part of it, that your food can go there? The birthing ball is a must. Oh my God, girl. Yes, I was on a birthing ball for I don't even know how long when I was on Pitocin with Jaylani. It was crazy. Yeah, that was my question. Okay, yeah, she said correct. Okay, I'm scrolling down, y'all. I'm scrolling down. Yes, during surgery. Okay, that's why. That makes sense to me then. Okay, cool. Because sometimes I have heard doctors say that, you could choke. Like, what do you mean? I'm an adult. I know how to eat. Like, okay, but you mean during surgery. That makes so much sense. Sister Portia, assalamu alaikum. Okay, so babies birthed versus babies delivered. Your baby does not need to be delivered. This came from when they start taking control of our births and how we deliver babies. That was literally them doing the job for you. Versus you, now that you've passed the knowledge part, right? You've learned all that you can about your body. Look at this little uterus necklace. It's so pretty, right? But now that you've passed the knowledge part of it, right? You know how your uterus works. You know how your uterus contracts. You know that one layer, Am I still here, y'all? That timer just went off. I'm about to take that timer off today. Y'all can still see me, right? I didn't end the live. Because I would be so devastated if I don't get to save this. Just give me a yes, a one, a maybe in the comments. Am I still here? Yes. Okay, cool. Okay. I got scared. This is better than Facebook, because Facebook, when that happened to me, it just completely shut it down and closed off the live. So, okay, I'm still here. A birthing center versus labor and delivery. Yep. There you go. Yep, Sister V. You said it literally right there. Labor and delivery. Bro, what are you delivering? It's not your job to birth my baby. It's not your job. So this is what I was saying. Your uterus has 3 layers, right? The most inner layer, which is what we shed every month during our menstrual cycle. And that's also why your pregnancy, that's also where your baby is clinging to and growing. That's what the placenta is attached to. That's why after you have your baby, you have that little period afterwards. I don't know if I should call it a period, but you have some bleeding afterwards. that is that inner lining, like, okay, we don't need you anymore, bye. Then you have the middle layer, which is muscle. It's all muscle. This is the thickest layer. It's all muscle. There's muscles at the top going this way. Then there's muscles at the bottom going this way, all the way around. So when you learn everything you can about how your body works, how your cervix goes from closed shut, and this is crazy too. I don't want to get us off topic, but this is crazy too. When you're ovulating versus when you're not ovulating, that cervix is closed shut when you're not ovulating. It's not even trying to accept no sperm. It's not even trying to. Sperm might get up in there, but I'm not even trying to have you right now. Versus when you're ovulating, it's dilated a little bit. A lot of people don't know that. You're actually dilated a little bit when you're ovulating. So anyway, knowing exactly how that cervix will get thin and wide, that is everything. Knowing exactly what your uterus is doing, where your baby is positioned, that is everything. Because now you're in full control of when you push. I always tell moms, don't let nobody tell you when to push, bro. Not one person is in your body can actually feel your uterus, and I don't care what those belts around your belly, they're not accurate readings of your contractions. I've been there with moms on the belt, and they're like, I'm contracting right now, and we be looking at the machine like, are you sure? Yes. Why would I tell that mom, no, you're not, because the machine don't say you are. Nobody is in your body can feel your uterus but you. Wa alaikum salam. Hey, Brother Daniel, thanks for coming. Did I miss anything? Nope. But yeah, Sister Vicky, you hit it right on the head. Labor and delivery versus birthing centers. That is a big difference. Okay, so the other thing I was going to say, yeah, just understanding whose job it is. I don't care how much support you got there, your husband, your doula, your midwife. Nobody can birth your baby like you. Nobody can birth your baby like you. Nobody can feel your contractions like you. Nobody. Like, that is the main idea that I want you to keep in the back of your head. This is my job. I call the shots. I'm in control of when I start pushing. And the other reason why I don't like coach pushing is because your body is literally, okay, back to the muscles, right? So one is squeezing this way to help open you up at the bottom, and the other is squeezing this way to help. Okay, so one is squeezing to make your cervix more thin. The other is squeezing to make your cervix more wide. So these two muscles are working together, and at the end of the day, they're literally pushing your baby out for you. So even if you chose not to ever push, your baby's still gonna come out. Even if you said, bruh, I'm tired, I don't want to push. Okay. As long as you're contracting, your baby's gonna come out. And that's also what helps detach the placenta after you have your baby. Your contractions, your muscle part of the uterus is still contracting. It's still doing its thing, what it's supposed to do. And it detaches your uterus. Your placenta. So regardless of what you choose to do. With Jaylani, nobody told me when to push. My midwives were trying to get me to change positions from laying on my back to hands and knees. And Jaylani came out, bro. I didn't have no control over that. It is the most out of body experience in the world. Like that, if, bruh, you leave your body. Like, she came out. I did not have to push her. None of that. Jaylani was like, I'm here. And that was it. So I'm all for home births, but we just have to get out of the mind frame of doctors being in control of your health, your body, all of those things. You are in control of your health. You are in control of your body. Nobody can feel your uterus like you can. Okay? That's how I did it. Hands and knees, yeah. That was the most comfortable, because I was like, bruh, something is changing. I was telling my midwife, something is changing. And at this point, you could just give me the cesarean. You can give me the epidural, whatever you need. And my midwife knew, I didn't know at that time, but my midwife knew that kind of language, when we start talking like that, like, I don't want the baby anymore, whatever, like, you know, the most dramatic language in the world, that's when you're in your transition phase. So we can talk about labor stages at another time. But that's the transition part where it's literally right before your baby's about to come out. So she was like, okay, Taylor, well, let's just see. She had never checked me. She never checked how dilated I was. None of that. She was like, let's just see how far along you are. Can you just turn around for me? Get on your hands and knees. I was like, okay. So I'm thinking she's going to check me to see how far along I am. Bruh, I'm halfway in between getting on hands and knees, and Jaylani's head is like, boop. Hello. I was like, okay, girl, thank you. I'm glad this is over. Okay, yeah, so anyway, yes, send me your video. I would love to see it. I'm about to DM you as soon as I get off of here. Yeah, y'all, feel free to DM me with any questions at all. If I missed anything, feel free to reach out anytime. I got y'all. I'm about to go get my clothes out the dryer and get back in the house. So, peace.